have a quorum. We said the Pledge of Allegiance, and now we're going to do roll call. Annie, please.
Mrs. Edwards.
Here.
Mr. Ruiz.
Here.
Mrs. Labuda.
Here.
Mr. Sorensen. Mrs. Geiger.
Here.
Okay, we're going to start with the resolutions. Motion.
Move it. Kathy.
Do you read it?
Second.
Second.
Okay, so
Jonathan.
it's establishing terms for voting membership of the Sullivan County Electrical Licensing Board. What happened was, we forgot to add it the last time that we were around. If you just turn to the last page. Can you explain it, Josh? You know what it's about.
The law just requires that the ones that you nominate that aren't statutory positions, like the legislative rep and myself, have to have terms, so they're staggered, and the board agreed to these terms in their a couple meetings ago, the Electrical Licensing Board, so that was their recommendation for terms.
Okay. And that's new with the new Electrical Licensing Board. The previous board did not have terms. And I'd also like to recognize Jean Benson for stepping up and being the legislative representative on the board. And Josh, also, you haven't assigned a designee.
I've been attending, I missed one.
So did I. I missed one too. We're even up.
Okay, so all in favor? Any opposed?
4-0.
Alrighty, moving on from resolutions, we mixed it up a little bit with our agenda. We are gonna start with Dick and the district attorney. He has his grand jury selection today because of the weather yesterday, so he's not gonna be joining us. Jeff is here, and do we have a representative from the Sheriff's Department? I thought Eric was here earlier.
Someplace in the building, I'm sure.
Okay, well, let's go ahead and get started, Dick.
Okay, good morning, everybody. As you well know, and if you look out the window, weather's been a very big part of our lives here in Sullivan County in the last couple weeks. The Wednesday before Thanksgiving, we had snow, which was challenging at best. It's the beginning of the season. And then, of course, on Tuesday morning, we had a motor vehicle accident on State 17 between exits 110 and 109, which resulted in a loss of life of one lady, as well as multiple tractor trailers. We've spent a lot of time looking at it as to what happened. There is no question in my mind that the roads were properly maintained, that the weather changed suddenly, and that the traffic that was involved in that accident wound up being subject to ice conditions that formed very quickly, and those drivers were unable to control their vehicles. And we're going to look at a couple other features. I spoke with the regional director from the state DOT, because they're looking at what they were doing, what could they do better, and I think it's the same results. What I am concerned about was that morning was because of the weather, we had a very hard and difficult response from the emergency services. There was ice in people's driveways, in front of firehouses. We had fire apparatus that got out on the road, was very, very difficult to control. But I think it all comes down to all of us, that when we put out through the media, and the media has been very good about the weather, that there's going to be ice, there's going to be blowing snow, that everybody take their time and try, first of all, not to travel in that weather, and if they do, that they've got to take their time. You cannot go under normal speeds and think that you're going to get there. And meetings have to be assessed as to their importance, and if we have to cancel meetings, and this is all the way, just like the schools cancel so the buses are not out there, we have to do the same thing. We have had multiple meetings, everybody knows, as early as last Monday with state police, the DOT. I talked to Commissioner McAndrew on a regular basis. I've been up to the state DOT Region 9 meeting in early November, where they brought all the emergency managers, the state police troops that are in Region 9, as well as the sheriffs. And we all talk about response to incidents on the roadways. And the big factor that comes basically from our leaders in Albany is they want those roads open as quick as possible. Well, if you saw the debris that was across Route 17 the other morning, there was no way we were going to open that road in 1 hour. Physically impossible. Because of accident reconstruction, we had a loss of life, that's a police issue. We had to get the road in such a shape that they could get the wreckers there to remove the physical trucks and then to pick up all the debris. and that takes time. And everybody's got to be patient. Great cooperation from the town of Thompson, because the detour plan that we set up last summer did work. We put all the traffic for the westbound side to go over on Town of Thompson Road, parallel to the Sullivan Restaurant, and the DOT, Town of Thompson. I know the county helped out. We got the traffic through as best we can. The real eye-opener that I had is I always have to do the assessment and look around, see what's going on. There was 100-plus tractor trailers that were stopped, going either eastbound back to New York City or westbound going upstate.
On 17.
On 17. They were stopped because of the road conditions and also because the road was closed. It is absolutely amazing how much traffic is out on 17, and it's not necessarily coming here to Sullivan County. It's passing through. And we have a responsibility when they're in our turf, we have to be make sure for the safe passage for everybody. I mean, look after Thanksgiving, if you were up in
Sorensen.
the Binghamton area, you saw the backups they had up there because of the construction at the Mount Prospect construction site where 81 and 17 separate. We have one lane up in between Livingston Manor and Roscoe, and God bless, nothing happened there. The DOT's got it well signed and everybody cooperated, and they had to wait a while. So patience is the name of the game. And in my business, we try to keep all the emergency services. I send more than enough emails out to everybody so they know what the weather conditions are, and we just have to take our time to respond. As far as some other issues, I think at this time I'll just pass because that one's the biggest one, and we're still working on it.
So I just have a question. The tractor trailers that were involved in the incident on 17, they had started before all the other tractor trailers were stopped?
Well, what they did, they passed some of the trailers that were stopped, past exit 110, and they continued to travel.
Even though there was a stoppage of the
No,
tractor trailers?
Well,
I'm not
no,
clear on how they
nobody
got
stopped.
through.
What
They
happened
were
was
stopped on the side of the road.
stop of the road.
But
It's-
I had heard that there was
Two of them
ruling,
jackknifed.
on the news, there was a ruling that tractor trailers were off the interstates, right?
That's not an interstate.
Not on-
No, I know.
But
That's
not
why I'm
17.
wondering how they got past.
Our road was open, 17 was open. What they did is they were traveling to go up to Seneca Meadows,
Okay.
and two others were going to two other locations. There's 5 tractor trailers involved. And as they were coming up Woodsboro Mountain, things were starting to change. Some of the drivers that were on the road pulled over to the side because they said they're not
Go
gonna
up that mountain.
trust it,
Yeah.
okay? These other trucks continued.
I see.
And they got up to the top of the hill by 110, and then you start to come down towards Rock Hill. And then, of course, as they're going down, one of the cars had a incident where it ran off the road, and then people are putting brakes on, tractor trailers are going this way, and they're heavy. They're very heavy. And the result was that they jackknifed and wound up, demolishing the trucks. And there were 3 of them in a row. They were like in a tandem.
So the moral of the story is you don't have to wait for the governor to say, stay off the road.
No. Yesterday, the governor closed part of Route 81 up near Syracuse from Cortland up. Part of the thruway was restricting trucks. The Wednesday before Thanksgiving, Route 84 was closed from the Pennsylvania to Connecticut border, and a lot of those trucks that go across to Boston and over into the Midwest started to use local roads, including 17. And what the governor did, he was down in Hawthorne at the traffic center. He wound up telling the DOT that he wanted 4 New York State Thruway big tandem plows to come to Sullivan County, take care of 17. He sent another 4 to Hancock for Delaware County and 4 up to Binghamton. So the governor is very active. I got to give him credit for this. And as these storms are coming up, he has what they call the leaning forward attitude. Let's get prepared. And when he sees things start to happen, he's moving things that never used to move in the box. He's bringing other resources. And for this storm that Tuesday morning hit, we already had 4 additional trucks here in Monticello for the state DOT that came out of Long Island. And those trucks were on 17 and working. They sent 4 trucks and 8 operators so they can keep them rolling. So as far as I'm concerned, and I said it yesterday, I believe the DOT was well prepared. They did the best they could. And that goes back to all of the people that are on the road to use good discretion.
Thank you. And I think we've done that with the closing of the buildings on Wednesday.
And late opening on Tuesday.
Yeah, the storm, from what we had heard, came a little bit quicker and was a little more sleet and ice than we had anticipated. So Dick and Ed and I were all talking at 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning, and through 7 it decided to delay because of the ice and people having to travel up 17 to get here, and it was closed, so that had a lot to do why we delayed.
That was a good decision. Okay, thanks.
Cora, one
Yeah.
other thing, I do want to give credit, Alex is here, our 911 staff is out there. I know he adds an extra dispatcher in the midnight hours or daytime when we have weather issues, but the other night, the 2 dispatchers that were there did a fantastic job. You have to understand the number of calls that come in by cell, and the first call was because of the one car, and the state police were on top of it. They were en route, and within 3 minutes, we started to get multiple calls about all these tractor trailers. And they're trying to get fire there, they're trying to get EMS there, they're trying to get all this that need to be there. So we got to give 5 stars to our 911 folks. They're really doing a great job for us.
I just had a question. If a family was directed by their doctor after hours for a family member, child, or whatever, to be evaluated at the ER, for example, a lot of times when you call and you get the doctor's answering service after hours, they'll say if it's a medical emergency, call 911, right? Would the family still call 911 if it wasn't necessarily an emergency? If the family was having difficulty navigating the roads, if they didn't have a 4-wheel drive truck in the snow, or if they were sliding on the ice?
That's a discretionary thing, okay? If you're sliding on ice, and I've had this discussion with Albie Bachman, and Albie agrees with me, we may come, folks, to a point where if the roads are, for a particular period of time, so icy that we cannot get the emergency vehicles going anywhere, they're going to stay stopped, okay? They're not going to be trying to get to people, because if they wind up getting stuck or get damaged or get our crews hurt, we're not accomplishing anything. So, but that's an exception. There's narrow windows
Well, the
that
reason
way.
why I ask is because I had a scary experience with my son with croup, and he absolutely could not breathe. And when I called the pediatrician after hours, he said, you know, the answering machine, if it's a medical emergency, call 911. But I had a nebulizer at home, I gave him a treatment, I started out, the roads were fine. But I got thinking, if a family didn't, you know, if it was the icy night 2 nights before that, what route would a family take in
Well,
that?
in that case, and I'm just going to call it real quick, what we would try to do is get a paramedic or an EMT who's qualified to assist you at home.
So they should call 911,
Still call
activate the
911.
system.
And what we'll also do, we'll get a hold of the town highway superintendent and/or our folks. We have a call person over at Maplewood, and we will tell them that we need to move an emergency ambulance from point A to point B. We need assistance with a highway truck with sand or salt, and they will make every effort to give us that assistance. And in some cases, we've already sent towns into other towns. It makes no difference what the logo is on the door. If it's an emergency or it could become a very serious
Okay.
emergency,
Yeah,
and we've
because
talked about that with the
A lot
highway
of times
guys.
croup resolves itself.
Right.
And so by the time EMS came, but the doctor wanted them evaluated in the ER, and the ice and the snow, you know, made it difficult. So that would be.
But we
the
would
route.
always try to help you, and then when it's
Yeah.
safe to get the EMS unit with the patient to the hospital, we'll get them there too.
Okay.
Okay?
So that's a good segue to Alex, your 911,
Yes.
if you have to,
Yeah.
want to add to, you know, basically the call volume and
Correct.
anything you want to add
Yeah,
about
when it's
this
busy, when you read about stuff
emergency.
in the paper, we're busy. I mean, you know, there was the accident in Rock Hill, there was another one yesterday head-on Glen Wild Road. So, you know, weather has been an
It's a
issue.
pretty one
and
too.
Hopefully folks, you know, kind of drive at their pace or don't drive at all, you know, stay home for a while, let the roads, thaw out and then head out if you need to. On that note, we have, just completed installation of a new 911 phone system on our end. This phone system we had was roughly 7 years old, actually a little over 7 years. And, you know, it's what they term a next generation 911 phone system. And, you know, again, I think I've talked about this in past meetings. It's moving toward being able to text to 911, send photos to 911 from people's cell phones. So that's the way our industry is going, and we need to be prepared for it. So the phone system has been installed. We're still working through a few last items with the vendor, and I'm hoping by Christmas we'll be completed with that project. That was one of our PSAP public safety answering point grant-funded project, so
That was 100% grant funded.
100% covered by grant.
Thank you, Art.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank the agency that gave
Yeah,
you the money.
that's huge. I mean, that also included a 5-year maintenance plan, so we're, we don't have to pay the maintenance on it, well, we have 5 years of maintenance included with the grant. So that was a home run for us.
What was the total on that grant, when all the pieces are put together?
Of that project is roughly $500,000
Just a little under 500,000.
with the 5 years of maintenance.
This is a good day.
Other than that, yeah, as you all know, phase 1 construction was completed. We're in the middle of phase 2 construction for the tower, for the radio project, and that is building out the Elk Point Tower. New shelters was placed last week, and up at Wurtsboro, the foundation is in for the tower. Foundation's going in next week for the shelter, and then after the new year, that'll be delivered, and the tower will start to be erected in Wurtsboro. I'll probably shut down for a month or two for the winter, depending on the weather, and then we'll start up in the spring on Delaware and Tustin, which is in the phase 2. So that's continues to move, and we're seeing progress on that. We will hopefully be talking with Motorola in January to start putting together the final system design and kind of reaffirming our design that we signed on to 4.5 years ago. We're just gonna kind of make sure that the equipment is still, correct. They update the equipment to what's being produced today, and then we'll move forward with a timeline to install that, probably summer, fall of this year. So, this coming year, 2015. So that is moving, again, swiftly, so that's good news for everybody.
And we were sort of ballparking how much it's a $10 million project, and we're somewhere around the halfway mark in terms of the spend down.
Well, to date, all the towers we've built to date have been grant funded. Again, from our round 1 and now we're around 2 grants. So to date, any money we've expended has been grant funding for the infrastructure.
And that's
We're now
around
gonna
$3
start-
million.
Roughly. We have 3 million, and I couldn't get those numbers exactly for you today, Cora, but.
That's all right, we'll get them for next month.
Correct. Roughly for infrastructure, we have about $1.5 million, which we've expended or are expending. And once we get into the Delaware and Tustin towers, that's where, we'll start to use some of the bond money. There is a round 4 grant application, which is hopefully coming out any day now, from the
Between Christmas and New Year's, it'll be announced.
Yeah, it was supposed to come out September, then October, now we're into December, they're saying by the new year. But we do hope to be aggressive in the round 4 grant and, realize what we can to help offset the radio costs there, so.
Well, it was actually Nancy who reminded me that when the discussions first started about the radio interoperability there, it was all county share, there wasn't the grant available. And so we're really ahead of the game in terms of that. So I'm very grateful to everybody who really works on it all the time to get us to this point. It's really important.
Or if I could add one thing, we did get a call, the OEMs, that the governor's office was gonna call the county executives and ask them what we needed for the storm. And I got to Josh and I said, tell them we need round 4 of the grant money, and we'll take a casino also, thank you. So,
Are you following Dick's instructions?
they never called
I
them?
never got a call.
That was lucky.
You never should have added that second part.
So
Well-
just so I understand, Alex, the grant funding that was received to date is about approximately $3 million?
Correct.
Is that, okay.
There's 2 major grants, the round 1 and round 2, which were, I'll call them infrastructure grants. And that was money we used toward some of the towers and the infrastructure. Then we've received about another $1.5 million in other costs. So when I talk about the phone system for $500,000, there's some microwave equipment, some other upgrades to GIS systems within the 911 center. So there's other public safety related items that couldn't be used for infrastructure. So it depends on how the grant is structured.
Okay, so we'll have that outlined in January for everybody. I mean, the bottom line is that when you have a grant, you have to, he who pays the piper calls the tune. We have to play the rules. It has to come in on time and on budget, even if the state changes their mind about what the timeline is. So I think we've been very, very good at being able to meet all these different demands. So thank you. So now we're gonna hear from Jeff.
At present, the probation department is working with the sheriff's office in ensuring polygraphs are done with our highest risk sex offenders. I'd like to express my gratitude also to the sheriff's office in providing Jake Gore to do these polygraphs. It saves us a ton of money. It's an invaluable resource. We just had yesterday a sex offender who we thought was doing well. On the face of it, they're keeping their appointments, going to treatment, nothing that would set off an alarm, and home visits. However, during the polygraph exam, it was ascertained that they had a perfect victim, a 10-month-old, somebody that can't relate to you what's going on, and we're able to have that individual arrested. Ordinarily, if we had to hire out someone privately to do the investigation, the polygraphs, it costs about $250 to $300, and we do 10 to 15 of those a year. So you can see the savings that we incur utilizing the sheriff's department. We are continuing with those polygraphs, and like I said, they are an invaluable resource to the department and to public safety. We just had a officer graduated #1 in the academy for fundamentals of probation, and ordinarily that would be a good thing, except as we speak, he is being interviewed by Ulster County Probation, who they have an instructor there, and they said, wow, this guy's really on the ball, and I expect that we'll be down staff because of that person. I'm sure we'll accept that position.
You mean they found out you had graduated top in his
Yeah, the
class?
instructor, the Ulster County provides instructors for fundamental, and they say, wow, this guy's a really good guy here, and they, like I said, he's being interviewed right now. We have another officer probably leaving for Westchester County in January. We have an opening because I had to let someone go. They weren't cutting it, and we sent out 6 campus letters. 3 people responded. Salary is too low, and other people didn't respond, so I don't know. I'm a little concerned for next year. Also, we have approximately a third of our staff has less than 10 months experience. So concern is someone new, someone new, what do you do? And they don't do the right thing. This is
Wait, 1/3 of the staff has less than how much experience?
10 months.
10 months.
And that is going to increase as these other individuals are expected to leave within the next month or 2.
So when we had looked at the staffing chart, because that was our primary focus, was to make sure that all the vacancies were filled, there was this huge gap between the most experienced, some of those having more than 20 years, and then the new recruits coming in, and there's like really nothing in the middle, so to speak. So as long as that intake doesn't hold, then you're stuck without 2 tiers. You have
Well,
all-
now, something that hadn't happened in the past is more experienced officers are leaving.
As well as.
As well, yeah.
Mhm.
So, I mean, one of the officers that is 15 years experience will be leaving next month.
And that was sort of like our middle tier.
Yeah, that was the tier that really didn't move. That was kind of the backbone. Like I said, I don't scare easily, but I'm very concerned that you have a lot of new people, and you don't. We've exhausted the list for potential candidates. Anyone you hire would be provisional. If they don't make it, if they don't score well on the next test, you're back to square one. So you're going to have this period of time where it's going to be fairly chaotic within the department.
Also, we've had discussions in the past about how probation isn't like the rest of, the government center. And, I've had the benefit of those discussions over the last 3 years, but if you could just sort of succinctly, for all the legislators here today, just kind of reiterate why you think that's so. I think it's helpful.
Well, I'd rather just send out, I'll write something up instead of doing like kind of off the top of my head.
Okay.
Because I do have a concern that I will expand on an email that I'll send you or discuss
Okay.
it
Thanks,
further,
Jeff.
yeah.
I really appreciate your report. So now we have, is the sheriff? Mike?
Mike's in-
Yeah. Hi. Did you want to say a few words? Your monthly report?
Jail count remains stable. We got 160 right now. We haven't had anybody boarded out in a while. The old place is still holding together, so life is good.
It's defying gravity. I was there for the open house, so I spent about 2 hours going from top to bottom in the jail, and was there for the turnover of the morning and the evening shift. That was really good to meet everyone. So part of the open house, I had a chance to talk to Cyrus Barnes, and he was, I asked him what he was working on, and he was talking about that green spot scam. Could you just let everybody know what it is and what's being done to
Yeah.
address that?
Cyrus had planned to be here today, but he got called away with Joe Brown to investigate a bank fraud on Jeffersonville, so.
Well, that's his job, so we understand that.
This was a scam that involved, somebody posing as Orange and Rockland Utilities account person trying to, collect on a supposed overdue account, and they would typically target businesses, most of them on a Friday, to scare them that they wouldn't have any electric over the weekend. People automatically think, well, if they turn off the electric, I won't be able to get it back on by Monday. And it's a high pressure thing. Hey, we didn't receive your last payment. We need payment right away, or there's a truck on its way to pull your meter, and you're gonna have no electric. Of course, if you pay right away, we can, resolve this problem. And what they would do is have the victim go to a store that sells the Green Dot money card, which is a prepaid Visa or MasterCard. And they would put money on that card, call the number back, give them the credit card number. The bad guys would take the money off that card and go to an ATM and withdraw the money within minutes. So it's like next to impossible to trace them. We believe they're working out of the Dominican Republic. They're so brazen that they haven't changed their number. You can call them up today and somebody will answer the phone and offer to help you clear your account. It's amazing. So the Attorney General's involved, the FBI's involved, and the scam started about a year ago down in Rockland County, and it worked its way up. There's a theory that somehow they've got the database of customers. ONR's not admitting to anything, but they just started targeting Bloomingburg and Wirtsboro within the last couple weeks. So they're moving north, and they're going to run out of victims pretty soon because you have Lumberland, then that's it. And so again. Yeah.
So it's really important to get the word out to business owners in advance. Has your sort of PR thing helped?
Yeah, actually, we haven't heard of any activity in the last week.
Okay.
But now, there's a new scam.
Right.
Someone's calling and saying they're from the IRS.
Yeah, that's
In fact,
very
I believe they
common.
called the relative of Chief Smith, and the way the scam works is, hey, you owe money from your tax return, and we're gonna send the sheriff's office to arrest you.
Don't point at me.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, of course, we don't enforce IRS judgments. IRS simply freezes your account, is what they do. They send you a registered letter. They don't even call. They send you a registered letter and they freeze your account. So, but they're trying to use the sheriff's office to scare people. So that's the latest thing that's making its round here in Sullivan.
So when I brought it up to Dick and Josh at the agenda meeting last week, you both had examples of other scams, email scams.
Yeah, it seems pretty common that
Yeah, it's common.
asking you to click on links or call back with money orders. It's kind
Is that how they're presenting it, through a phone call or
Yes.
email?
Yeah, phone calls. I had one at my house for the IRS.
Okay.
My wife called me right away, said, why are they calling us?
To borrow money from
Only scams have one common thread. They either want you to send money, Western Union or MoneyGram,
Right.
or they want you to get a prepaid credit card and give them the number.
That's the red flag.
That's the red flag. As soon
And
as
you gotta
hear-
do it now.
Yeah, you have to do it now. As soon as you hear
Right.
Western
Okay.
Union, that's your red flag.
No
There's
real
something
bill
wrong.
And this other one was called Green Spot, Green Dot?
Green Dot is just one of many prepaid credit
Oh,
cards.
so it's not the,
It's not the card
it's
itself.
just the Western Union.
It's,
the
instead of the
vehicle.
Western Union, they're using this prepaid credit card that they can easily get money off of.
And have you gone to the SLAC, the Senior Legislative Action Group? Because a lot of times around Christmas time, the elderly are, prone to
We
a
were
lot
at
of
the
different.
Monticello one,
Uh-huh.
that's run by Cornell, Bonnie Lewis and that crew were there for that. But we've had extensive media coverage, the local media outlets have been great
Good.
getting the word out on that.
Can there
Alright.
be something, oh, I'm sorry, can there be something put out, like you say, pretty much across the board, it would be that, request for money right away? 'Cause
Yeah,
I know
that's a
several
com-
seniors in
Yeah.
my district that were scammed in a different way, but maybe something could go out through, the town boards and they could let their senior groups know. We have senior groups over that aren't necessarily involved in Monticello.
Right.
Is that a possibility?
Yeah, we can put that out again, and we'll stress the theme, the Western Union MoneyGram Green Dot theme, because another version of the scam is, an elderly person will be at home, receive a phone call, and you'll hear, "Hi, Grandma,
That's what it
I'm
was.
in jail in Montreal."
That's what it was.
That's been
And
going on
what'll
for 2
happen is
years.
the elderly person will say,
that.
"Johnny, is that you?" The person who's calling doesn't know what the grandkids' names are. They'll go, yeah, that's it, it's Johnny, yeah. I'm in jail in Montreal, I need bail money, can you send it
Well, this
Western
happened to
Union?"
my neighbor, they went to Western Union with $4,000 in Liberty somewhere.
Okay.
And the woman that was running that, Western Union said, "Are you sure? You better check."
Mhm.
So she called and the
She
grandson
saved
was
it.
not in Mexico. Yeah.
The most recent one was Bill Sipos from Mr. Willie's. He supposedly lost his wallet in a cab in England, and he was stuck, and people got this email all over the place. And,
Okay, yeah.
he
And he
wanted
never
to-
left the
yeah.
restaurant.
Dan Sturm on the county supervisors would get that word out. He's good about that with the town board.
Okay, thank you. If we go back to the agenda, we're gonna, just skip over old business and go to new business. By way of introduction, about a week ago, I was asked to put, Radio Jeff on the agenda, and so we're going to have, we're gonna be hearing from Sonia. You are the chair of the
I'm
Board
the
of
president of the Board
Trustees.
of Trustees,
President of the
yeah.
Board of
President.
Trustees.
I've prepared something for the committee members about the station.
Okay.
And I'll pass that around, and I also have a couple of copies, of a calendar that summarizes where we are as a station. We've been around for 25 years, and we would love to give you one of these.
So the purpose of this meeting is to talk about the Elk Point Tower for the
Exactly.
legislators.
Yes.
Just in the interest of full disclosure, we did have an invitation-only meeting at 8:45, so that the Alex and Dick and all the representatives from JFF who are here today, if you want to just raise your hands.
Yes, we have
and be
7
acknowledged.
trustees are here, and we have the founders of the station as well, who are
Right,
residents.
so just in the interest of full disclosure, we did have an information-only meeting so that, we could get brought up to date. And now it's here for the public, for the legislators, for the media, and we're just covering what we covered this morning, but we needed to get our ducks in a row. All righty?
Just as an aside, we'd be glad to put a public service announcement out about all the fraud fixtures, which would be definitely timely for something that the station can do. First of all, I want to thank the county for 24 years of letting us use the tower. We have a lease with you, and it has been a very generous contribution. We really probably could not have grown as a station in 24 years without that kind of support. Its value is in the hundreds of thousands of dollars. What you have in front of you are really 2 pages. One to peruse over is about what the station is like. The second page, the mission of what we do, a bit about our history, and some of the benefits of having a community public station here in Sullivan County. But on the first page, I sort of thought, what are the questions that you as a member might want to be asking as we consider the continued use of WJFF on the Elk Point Road Tower? The first one really is, what is public media all about? Why is it important? What is it? In 1967, there was an act of Congress creating the Public Broadcasting Act to assure that people would have access to the media that was just escalating tremendously, so that citizens would be aware of things that were going on. As you look on the first page, the 4th bullet talks about providing information to help Americans grow, learn, and achieve their dreams. That's sort of what public media is about. If you ask why it is important, why is public media important, is that public stations are non-commercial entities. They are not primarily aimed at making a certain amount of profit. They address local needs and they talk about local issues. Secondly, they address a very diverse audience. We are interested in everyone, not just the people who are spending certain amounts of money on certain things. And then the last thing, before I hope you'll have some questions, is to present to you why Sullivan County should really try to keep the WJFF transmitter on the tower at Elk Point Road. When Sullivan County and WJFF first agreed upon a lease to use the county tower, the station was still a tentative experiment. 25 years later, WJFF is a well-established and well-known asset to the public good in Sullivan County and beyond. Regular listeners average over 20,000 households. WJFF has garnered national and international attention for being hydropowered, for its community involvement, and for the diversity of its program, a great deal of which is produced by people here who are probably your neighbors. And finally, public media by law serves the public. Community by community, the focus is on public service, much as Sullivan County government does. This is the responsibility that WJFF and Sullivan County government shares. And we would like to hope that we can work out a relationship and continue our relationship with you. Of course, if there are any expenses involved in doing that, the station is definitely prepared to move forward on that.
Okay. So you have a question right now, Cindy?
Yeah, I was just wondering if we could kind of get an idea of why you're here today. I know I had a conversation with Dick about the challenge of tower weight with the new equipment, something like that.
Okay, so we're gonna
right.
move on to that.
Okay.
All right, do you want to do the brief recap again, just very, very brief of the three options?
Well, basically what it is we've had our engineering study on the tower. We're not replacing the existing tower. And there is a weight factor. Right now we're at 97% capacity on the tower. And as we go into this radio project, we're going to be adding more equipment or more antennas to the tower.
I
And
need to stop you right there. I need to get clear, Alex, you said it was 97% capacity with or without the existing radio Jeff antenna?
97% will be with the existing Jeff antenna and the new equipment that we are going to have as part of the radio project on the tower.
Okay, so that needs to be clarified.
So you're still under capacity?
Well, 3%.
Well, it's,
Right.
you never wanna have a tower at 100%, you
Never.
never wanna have a
Never.
tower
Right.
near 100%. It's just, you know, a loading issue. I mean, you wanna almost be at 50% if possible.
What we resolved today is we're gonna have our engineer, Mark Hoppy, who's the consultant, to speak with the JFF engineer and let them talk their language, okay? And then we're gonna get together again with the board, Josh, myself, Cora, and Alex, and then we'll see where we're going from there.
Okay, so for the benefit of all the legislators who are on the committee, can you please outline the three options that were
Okay,
put
three
forward?
options that I explained to Adam. Adam's over here, he's their manager of the station. And I did this a couple years ago now, and again last year. There's really three options. One, JFF stays on the tower as we are today. And we can make accommodations and make sure that everybody can still do what they need to do. Or option B would be that JFF needs to get its own tower. In other words, locate a tower, purchase it, and run it as their business tower. And my suggestion always was to try to get one closer to their station because they're paying a lot of money in fiber cost from the broadcast studio all the way up to the tower. They need to be closer if they could. If I was sitting on the other side of the table, that's what I would try to do, not to try to hold the cost down. And that's about $1,000 a month. Adam, am I fairly close?
Ballpark, for sure.
Yeah, so you know, that's $12,000 a year they're paying to the utility company just to get the signal up there. The third option would be is to contact one of the other tower owners here in Sullivan County that would be in the location that still could give them the broadcast to the community that they're currently serving, that 20,000 households, and try to work out an agreement to work with them on their tower. Now, one of the things that they do have, which we've spoken to one of the tower owners, is they have this generator that was donated to them. It's a good-sized generator, by the way. And the tower company that has no generator. So I said, well, our friends at JFF has got one. Maybe that would help to support the two of you working together. But of course, it's got to be in a location which will again serve. So those are the three options. Stay where we are if we can do it. Number two, get your own tower. Get yourselves closer. Try to cut down the cost of the yearly, monthly cost to get the signal. And then last but not least, to try to share with another tower company their signal and the other folks that are on it. So that's the options.
So it is very important to
Kathy,
kind of
over you.
to stay where we are. If we move, we change the listenership. If we were to go to another spot, you know, that would change the listenership. So we are, of course, willing to pursue all these alternatives that were presented. The meeting of the two engineers, Earl, who is our engineer, who's been well-known by the county, and Mark would certainly move things forward. There may be a way to strengthen the town, and it certainly should be explored before we move that out.
Kathy was next, then
So,
Cindy.
well, I was gonna ask Sonia, I mean, how your board felt about it, but I think you answered the question. You think you would rather stay on the tower.
That's our first choice.
But my question to Alex is, you saying that the tower should only be like 50% full?
We're trying to replace that tower would be about a $300,000 expense. So when Mark Hoppy looked at it, he actually went out to a professional engineer. They did a load study of what's on the tower, what's going to be on the tower. And the engineer came back, and the third party, it wasn't even Mark, it was a third party engineer, said that with the proposed loading, we're gonna be at 97%. You never wanna stress a tower, especially one that's over 20 years old. You don't wanna stress that at 97%. You know, and there's two factors. There's the loading. The other factor that went into the consideration of this is, in the past, we've had some interference issues. FM broadcast is a very strong signal. In the past, we've had instances where JFF radio signal gets into our public safety equipment and gets broadcast back to the 911 center, so dispatchers are listening to JFF on the consoles. And I know some of our field folks have had issues with degraded signal due to some of the interference. You know, JFF has been working with us, they're certainly attentive to it, and it's no fault of their own, it's just the nature of FM transmission. So as we move into a new radio system, an upgraded radio system, you know, Mark's feeling, and you know, I guess I have to echo it on the consultant's part as well, moving into a new radio system, A, you don't wanna stress your equipment, and B, you wanna try not to be impeded by other tenants on your tower, so you wanna, you know, not be inhibited by other transmissions. So again, it's not that, you know, I respect JFF, I respect all of my communication partners, whether it's SUL, BOS, they all certainly provide a valuable service, and I sympathize with that.
Those
but-
transmission issues are no longer, that interference is in the past, isn't happening now.
We've worked around it,
Yeah,
we've, you know,
moved on.
unfortunately, one of the fixes is, because there's not a lot you can do on the FM radio side, oftentimes the fixes include shielding our equipment, or making modifications or putting filters into our equipment, which will shield out their signal and prevent it. So, you know, it's,
Okay, so,
twofold.
does that answer, so
Yeah.
Cindy, you had your hand raised now.
I just wanted to for option number one, if WJFF, stays and accommodations are made, do you have an idea of what the scope of those accommodations would be? And my second question is, if the, interference was a problem and JFF was accommodated to stay on the tower, could they, help fund permanent fix to that interference problem, or has that been fixed?
I think if they can stay on, I think that's certainly a discussion that the engineer folks, Earl Neitzel and Mark Hoppy, need to have that discussion.
Okay.
Again, I know it's twofold, Cindy, it's the interference issue as well as the loading issue. You know, keep in mind from the county perspective, you know, if we choose whether, you know, our plan, the timeline, so everybody understands, is we hope to, you know, we've asked JFF to look on or about June 1st to relocate to another tower.
Okay.
Our plan is to sit down with Motorola in January, as I reported earlier, finish our tower construction through the spring months, and then have Motorola start installing summer of this year, this coming year. So timing wise, you know, they'd have to talk, the engineers would have to talk and work that out. We wanna be sure, and you know, Dick has been talking with JFF for over a year, just kinda getting them ready that something may be changing and to be looking for other alternatives. As I mentioned in our pre-meeting, I sympathize and I understand it takes time for FCC licensing. I personally know that moving towers is certainly not an easy experience, and, you know, we wanna make sure that they have enough time with that.
Okay, and one more quick question.
Wait, Alan
Oh, I'm
actually had
sorry.
his hand raised, and then Cindy
I'm
again.
sorry.
Yeah, just a question with respect to the existing equipment that WJFF has. Am I correct in assuming that it's maybe 20 years old, the equipment? I'm just wondering if there's newer comparable equipment that might be less, have less weight just because of the components.
The transmitter is probably 10 years old. The transmitter is not 20 years old. The equipment was
It's about
replaced
10.
some time ago, but it's not the original equipment that was placed up when we first went on the air.
I'm just wondering if modern state-of-the-art equipment might weigh less than.
As I understand,
The
this is
engineers
for something for the
could look into
engineers to
that.
talk about, I think.
Yeah.
You can start making a list of all the questions you want your engineers, because that was the recommendation coming out of this morning's meeting. If, as of 4 o'clock yesterday, the engineers haven't spoken to each other, they need to speak in the language of engineer speak and really be clear so that by the time it gets to the lay people, you know, we have a better understanding. Okay, Cindy.
Maybe a Texas Instrument calculator.
If there are other stations on the tower currently now?
You know, the only, it's all public safety, we have the fire, EMS, sheriff's office, and the only outside agency or tenant we have is WJFF on that tower.
Okay, and then I just wanted to ask the board, if the other two options, such as, you know, purchasing a tower and locating closer to the station, or to link up with another tower, is that fiscally viable, being that you're non-commercial? Is
Well,
that something?
we have inquired about one other tower of renting space there, and it was around $1,800 a month. We, the cost of moving is considerable, but we know that there are, that Bethel Woods, Gary Foundation had towers they've taken down, there might be some space there. We're eager to stay on the Elk Point Road, that's location because of the listenership.
Okay, and you couldn't just, the property that WJFF has, you couldn't locate a tower there because
No,
it has to
no.
be on an elevation?
No,
Right, okay,
we couldn't.
okay, thank you.
So now we'll open it up for public comment. All righty, then make a motion. Adjourn.
Please take a calendar if you'd like to have.
I'm sorry.